It's my pleasure to welcome you to another episode of NAFDAC and Your Health. This is a program where we give you reports of how NAFDAC, the agency that regulates food and drugs in Nigeria, safeguards the health of the Nigerian people by ensuring that only wholesome food products and genuine drugs are made available for our consumption and use. My name is Opejemi Urimolade. Today's episode of NAFDAC and Your Health brings you highlights from a recently held press conference where the NAFDAC DG announced bioequivalence as the new NAFDAC's regulatory framework and its relevance to the healthcare system in Nigeria. The effort to mitigate the menace of substandard and falsified medicine, which has been a life-threatening phenomenon, is a ceaseless one in spite of the fact that NAFDAC has been recording great successes in the drive to curb the menace. Apart from this, the agency still needs to continue its surveillance and investigation so that in no distant time, the confidence will be built that our society is totally free of substandard and falsified drugs. This is the reason NAFDAC continues to strive to develop new policies and adopt new approaches that will help phase out or keep to the barest minimum the menace of substandard and falsified drugs. Bioequivalence is a new approach that NAFDAC is adopting in this regard. The NAFDAC Director-General, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, made this known at a press conference in Lagos recently. The NAFDAC DG explained the meaning of bioequivalence, its significance and benefits.
Bioequivalence is a critical scientific concept that ensures or doubly ensures the quality, safety, and efficacy of generic drug products in comparison to their innovator counterparts. It establishes the interchangeability of generic medicines with their branded equivalents, relying on statistically significant clinical outcomes to confirm that generics deliver comparable therapeutic effects. Innovator drugs undergo rigorous phases of clinical trials and scientific evaluation, and generic drug products are expected to provide similar clinical outcomes when used in healthcare settings or when used in our different homes. To confirm that generics are therapeutically equivalent and interchangeable, that is capable of treating or managing conditions as effectively as innovator medicines, bioavailability and bioequivalence studies are done, and they are essential. Implementing bioequivalence studies fosters confidence in the therapeutic equivalence of generic medicines, which are widely used in Nigeria. The initiative promotes public health by reducing the circulation of substandard falsified medicines, averting therapeutic failures, boosting trust in the pharmaceutical industry and healthcare system, and encouraging rational prescribing practices.
The NAFDAC Director-General also explained that NAFDAC has been working hard to fulfill its mandate through science-based regulatory framework.
NAFDAC, as the national regulatory authority, is fulfilling its mandate to safeguard public health through a robust, science-based regulatory framework that mandates bioavailability, bioequivalence studies for all medicinal products that qualify for such studies in Nigeria. To achieve this, NAFDAC has developed a strategic roadmap and is implementing it systematically to align stakeholders and facilitate compliance. We are here in Marriott And right now, we are in the middle of the workshop for bioequivalence. That is part of our strategic roadmap. First, the agency has issued comprehensive regulations and guidelines for the pharmaceutical industry, detailing how to achieve therapeutically equivalent generic drug products through BE studies. These documents are accessible on NAFDAC's official website, nafdac.gov.ng, and you do search for guidelines on bioequivalence. Second, a specific note to the industry has been released outlining requirements for contract research organizations, and this note to the industry is also available on the website. If you go on our homepage, you scroll down to notes to the industry, you will see the requirements for contract research organization that will want to do bioequivalence studies for companies. Third, NAFDAC is investing in capacity building by training its staff and stakeholders, including healthcare practitioners, researchers, contract research organizations, and industry players. This ongoing training ensures a shared understanding and supports a smooth, effective, and sustainable implementation process. This press briefing is part of a series of engagements designed to keep stakeholders informed and involved. NAFDAC reaffirms its unwavering commitment to upholding the quality, safety, and efficacy of generic medicines in Nigeria by mandating BE study. The agency calls on all stakeholders and the public to support this initiative by prioritizing the use of generic products that have undergone rigorous regulatory scrutiny and are duly approved by NAFDAC.
NAFDAC and your health will continue after this short break.
Substandard, falsified, and counterfeit medicine is a threat to maternal and child health. NAFDAC, in its commitment to prevent maternal death and drastically reduce child morbidity, advises healthcare providers to ensure that quality, safe, and efficacious medicines registered by NAFDAC and properly stored are used. NAFDAC requires that registered medicines must have NAFDAC registration number, batch number, manufacturer's name and actual location address, manufacturing date, expiry date, and scratch and test for anti-malaria and antibiotic medicines. NAFDAC advises the general public to purchase medicines from registered pharmaceutical retail outlets as prescribed by the healthcare providers. NAFDAC, safeguarding the health of the nation.
Thanks for staying tuned. You're still watching NAFDAC in your health. Speaking further at the press conference, which focused on the relevance of bioequivalence to the health of the Nigerian people, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye went further to explain how bioequivalence will help to mitigate the menace of substandard and falsified products.
NAFDAC has multi-strategic approaches to mitigate substandard falsified medicines. Maybe we have up to about 10 different approaches. Last week we were at Radisson to show one of the approaches by working with clean report inspection analysts for pre-shipment testing from China and India. And we were adding one more last week to that list of CRIA agents that do pre-testing for us before products are exported into the country. That is one approach. Of course, the approach that all of us have been very familiar with over the last 2 months is making sure we sanitize the open drug markets, where at least 50% of substandard falsified medicines are sold, knowingly that it will not work on our people, and still they keep selling. So the enforcement that we carried out last 2 months is one of the approaches, and it will continue. This bioequivalence studies that we are demanding is another approach to ensure that generic products, and we have, I think, at least 95% of our products in Nigeria are generics. They are generics because somebody has already done a lot of scientific work to develop the product, got a patent on the product. After the expiration of the patent, then a generic company, a copycat company can make such product. About 95% of our products in Nigeria are generics. And at the evolution of generics, which happened about 40 years ago, when the innovator products are too costly for the average human being, especially when you have a lifelong illness that you have to keep using. So there was a debate at the Congress in the US that why can't we have generic products that have similar drugs, or the same drug of course, but similar processes, to make cheaper products. That is the Hatch-Waxman rule or act in the Congress of the US, because science was evolving. An innovator company made a product, was tested, was approved, and the patent expired, like I mentioned. Another company wanted to copy it, and it was assumed at the beginning that they will work the same. But science proved it that may not be true all the time, because the fact that you have aspirin by an innovator and you have aspirin by a generic company doesn't mean they will work the same. First, because of the source of the medicine, of the aspirin. Secondly, because of what you added to the aspirin, what we call non-active ingredients, that could change the profile. Thirdly, because of the process. We have many processes to make products. The process may change it, but nobody was thinking of it at the beginning when generics evolution started. So when generics started coming up, they started seeing differences based on the major 3 reasons that I gave. The source of the material, of the active ingredients, the ingredients that are used, non-active ingredients that are added to it, and the process. FDA US started demanding bioavailability, bioequivalence studies to prove that generics are also equal in performance in the body, and of course in the lab too, in vitro. So US started demanding it, and other countries with time started demanding it, because it is not that easy to do something overnight. If you have a substandard falsified medicine that is generic, the lab will prove that it is falsified, because before you start dosing the human beings, volunteers, healthy volunteers, most of the time, you've got to test in the lab, the in vitro testing, to make sure the rate of release of the drug with time. This is for immediate release medicines now, that the rate of release is according to specified guidelines. If it is not, in vitro, you will stop before you start dosing human beings with it. And the study, it can be 1.5 days, it can be 2 weeks, it depends on, it can be days or weeks rather. It depends on the type of medicines, where you will have to communicate very well to the community that these medicines are already being used. We just want to be sure that they will perform very, very well, or they are performing very well. So that is why it is very important what we are doing to join the global world to ensure that the patient, the subject, the consumer is always first.
When asked why Nigeria is just adopting bioequivalence while some other countries started years back, this is what the NAFDAC DG has to say.
China and India, I think, started theirs about 12, 15 years ago. We started thinking of ours about 5, 6 years ago. But we have to make sure that we have put things in place to make sure that it will not be too hard for us. First, you need the intellectual capacity in country. You have to have people that understand what it means to do work in the lab. There is no mago-mago there. It is either it's true or it's not true. That's science. There's no half-truth in science. You can ask why not earlier. Each country faces their own challenges differently. This is the best time for us to start doing it. A question can also be asked, what of all the medicines we have been taking before? If we had wanted to demand that without bioequivalence there will not be medicines in Nigeria, all of us will have died. Because we didn't have wherewithal to do it. The level of our educational system, compared to when I was in the university 50-something years ago, is quite different. So what you bring out of the university is quite different from what used to be. That's the sad truth. The economy has seen many climates also. To set it up, to set that ecosystem up takes a lot. So I believe it's the right time. And talking of continental Africa, NAFDAC is one of the few NRAs that are doing it right now. The fact that India and China started theirs 10, 12 years ago doesn't mean that they are all doing it too. Not all companies are doing it. It's a phased project for most countries.
The NAFDAC DG is certain that the bioequivalence approach will ensure that drugs taken are of good quality, they are safe and efficacious. She also added that drug manufacturers have embraced the new approach.
In terms of manufacturers, they have bought into our own approach, that products that are going to be submitted newly must have bioequivalence data, but we are facing it in because we know that this is not going to be overnight. But for those that are products that are being imported, we have met with the Indian manufacturers virtually to ensure that they also must make sure that the product that they are importing into our country, or exporting rather, into our country are of quality and they have BE study reports.
In conclusion, the NAFDAC Director-General admonished Nigerians not to patronize unregistered drug dealers.
Do not go to the corner store, kiosk, to buy medicines, please. Do not go to corner kiosk to buy medicines because you don't know the source. Go to certified pharmacies to buy your medicines, where you can get receipt. If you give us the receipt, we can track it, the source. Because and that has happened to us. There was somebody bought medicines, Northwest zone, and it didn't work. About 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and we tracked it down. and we knew the source, and we closed the company or the line. I think it's either the line or we closed the company for a while until they change their ways. So we are here to protect citizens, to safeguard their health. But for bioequivalence, it's an ecosystem we are building. I believe we are doing it right by being very strict as to who can do this testing. We will make sure that the reports that are given to us are certified. So nobody can just cook any data and say, well, this is our study report, and give to NAFDAC. We will be very, very stringent. Why? Because of us, because of you and I.
And now, moving on to NAFDAC news updates. It was a moment of pride and recognition as the Director-General of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, was honored with the prestigious award of the Most Outstanding Public Service Holder by Verbatim News magazine. The award ceremony, which was part of the highlights of the 13th anniversary lecture of the Verbatim magazine, was held on Thursday, the 10th of April at the Yaradua Center in Abuja.
Verbatim Award for Outstanding Public Service 2024 presented to Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, DG NAFDAC. Congratulations.
Professor Adeyeye's recognition did not come as a surprise to many in attendance. Since assuming office as NAFDAC's DG, she has been widely applauded for transforming the agency into a stronger, more transparent and internationally respected regulatory agency. Under her leadership, NAFDAC has significantly increased its surveillance and enforcement activities, cracked down on counterfeit drugs, and improved Nigeria's pharmaceutical regulatory framework. Presenting the award, the chairman of the organizing committee described Professor Adeyeye as a shining example of integrity and service, lauding her tireless efforts to protect public health and ensure the safety of foods, medicines, and other regulated products in Nigeria. Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, who was represented at the event by a high-powered delegation led by the Director of Human Resources Management of NAFDAC, Mr. Augustine Oboli, thanked Verbatim Award for the award. Speaking further, the NAFDAC DG said the award is not just hers. It belongs to every dedicated staff member of NAFDAC and to every Nigerian who believes in accountability, excellence, and the protection of lives through strong regulatory systems. The NAFDAC DG concluded by pledging to continue to serve with purpose and passion. That was NAFDAC Update. You have been updated.
This is where we'll draw the curtains on this episode of the program. If you have comments, complaints, or you want to report cases of unwholesome food products, fake drugs, or rather illegal activities carried out on any NAFDAC regulated product, our doors are always open.
You can reach NAFDAC via toll-free numbers. For inquiries, call 0700 162 3322. For complaints, call 0800 162 3322. You may also email NAFDAC at nafdac.gov.ng. If you have complaints about any form of misconduct, you can reach the Reforms Unit via email reforms@nafdac.gov.ng or call the Reforms hotlines on 0909 763 0506 or 0909 763 0507. NAFDAC, customer focused, agency minded.
Don't forget, importing, producing, distributing, selling unwholesome food products, fake drugs, or rather NAFDAC regulated products that are short of being genuine are all criminal acts. They endanger the lives of all. Be part of the efforts to put an end to this criminal act by reporting any suspicious activity in your area. Till we meet again next week, stay safe.